Yes, here we go, you guys. UFC Vegas 52, 12 fights. It's Tuesday night. It's 10 o'clock Central Time, you guys. You know what that means. It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. You guys, we got a really good card coming up this weekend. Not the best name value. There are a couple fights on here that, I don't know, man. They're not great, but there are some great betting opportunities here. And I always say the best cards are the ones that we win money on. And I am seeing some spots that are sticking out like sore thumbs all over this card, you guys. We got violent spots all over the place. We've got a bunch of short notice fights coming together here, some cancellations, some late replacements. We've got some opportunities lining up, you guys, and I can't wait to talk about it with all of you guys in the chat here. First one in the room is my guy Grateful Dude saying, "Oi!" And we got Victor De Jesus saying, "Oi!" Yes, time for my favorite show on YouTube. Let's shave ass and make this money. My guy Victor, good to see you in here, brother. We got Mushroom in here saying, "Uncle Weezy, oi!" And we got David saying, "Oi!" Let's get it. Passing the time with these cards till that May 7th pay-per-view when Justin Gaethje becomes champ. That is going to be a fun card for sure. We got Level Up saying, "Oi, let's shave some ass, Uncle Weezy." And we got Philip V saying, "Sup." We got the MMA Engine in the room saying, "Oi." MMA Engine shout out. We got Johnny Parsons in the room saying, "Rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated." I don't know, man. I don't know when we're going to be seeing one Johnny Parsons get back in this cage because he pulled out of a fight against Michael Gilmore. And there is no easier fight in the 170-pound division in this UFC than Michael Gilmore. So if he pulled out of that fight, boy, Johnny, I hope you're not missing a limb. I hope you don't have something serious going on. I would like to see you get back in that cage sometime soon. Show off that glorious hair of yours, and it'll be really easy to bet against you probably. We got my guy Lou Betcha in the room saying, "I think I speak for all of us when I say I cannot wait for that fat tub of goo, Chase Sherman, to begin this march towards the title." Dude, he's back, you guys. If you haven't heard, Chase Sherman, the one that everybody was saying should have never gotten cut, the guy that everybody was saying was on the fast track to wearing that strap, is coming back this week, you guys. It gets no more exciting than that. Chase Sherman versus Alexandr Romanov. Romanov better fucking watch out, man, because Chase Sherman is going to be back with a vengeance. Good to see you in here, Lou. We got JP62 saying, "Oi!" And we got Equity Sports Analytics saying, "Let's do this, Weezy." What's up, dude? Good to see you in here. We got JSJ saying, "Oi!" Jessica Andrade is my first max bet of the year. Good spot, or are you calling the orderlies on me? Well, there are several reasons to like Jessica Andrade here, and we will definitely get into it when we break down this main event. I am fairly non-committal about picking a winner. What I'm picking for the main event is violence, but this is a huge step up in competition for Amanda Lemos, and we have seen Jessica Andrade have success everywhere with the clinch game, with her wrestling, with her top control, and with her stand-up as well. So she might be the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. She's certainly more experienced, and she certainly fought, beaten, and lost to the much better brand of competition here. So yeah, I don't hate the bet, JSJ. I think you're going to do okay with it. But Lemos is going to be dangerous with those hands of hers, especially early in the fight. It is a great main event, and I can't wait to break it down in detail with you guys. And we got Mushroom saying, "Andrade inside the distance. Love it." We got Low T City Ortega saying, "Let's get it, Weezy. Let's get it, Low T." We got Daz File saying, "Oi." We got Jeremiah Nicola saying, "We live, baby." We got Paul Brassfield saying, "Oi." We got Tim Troiano, who I was hanging out with this weekend, saying, "Sup, Weezy." What is up, Tim? Good to see you in here, brother. We got F. Carrillo saying, "The best uncle in the world." I am absolutely I'm over the moon by that comment, F. Carrillo. That is awesome, dude. We got DJ saying, "Just shave my ass. Let's get this bag, Unc. Let's get it, man. If you shaved your ass, then this should be the best part of your day, because shaving one's own ass, not exactly usually up on the high of things to do on that list of things to make you happy. But hey, oh well. It's over with now. Now you can enjoy just the tip. We got David Nettles saying, Uncle Weezy always bringing high-quality wagering insight. I appreciate that, David. Thank you for hanging out, brother. We got PSSA. Can't wait to see Romanov odds. I have not seen them yet either. They haven't opened. I got big question marks on that ticker for when that fight, when we talk about it. We've got the Cuban Assassin saying, Weezy Wheeze, let's get that cheddar. In honor of Mike Jackson, I dusted off my March of 1989 Playboy with the LaToya Jackson spread. 30 years later, it's still terrifying. Mama say, mama sa, makako sa. I am with you, Cuban Assassin. I can't believe LaToya Jackson was in Playboy. That was a long time ago, man. That is a blast from the past. Cuban Assassin, always good to have you in here hanging out, my brother. We got Banana Boat Float saying, Big Uncle Weezy. We got Hammer and Hog saying we cashed a multi last 7 cards of last week's UFC card. $50 netted me $2K. Damn, dude. That's 40-1, baby. You gotta love that. That is awesome, Hammer and Hog. And we got F. Carrillo saying, need a 6-leg parlay, Uncle. Wow. And that is a ring-a-ding-ding. Another donation from my guy, F. Carrillo, always supporting the show. F. Carrillo, we appreciate the donation as always, man. 6-leg parlay. Let's give you a nice juice one here that's got a good chance of cashing off the top of my head. All right. We're not going to go off the top of my head. We're going to bring up the matchups on my screen here. All right. So we are going to do Qileng else fight doesn't go to decision. Pedro Villanueva fight doesn't go to decision. Wright Barriault fight doesn't go to decision. Then we're going to do, God damn it. Well, oh boy. Lemos Andrade fight doesn't go to decision. We will add Prachnio Lin's fight doesn't go to decision, and we will top it off with, oh my God, what are we going to top it off with? The Barber de la Rosa fight goes to decision. F. Carrillo, we got 5 violence legs and 1 stop the violence leg. Let's get it, buddy. Thank you for the donation. We got my guy all the way from Finland checking in with us. Jarno Portilla saying, Oi, yes, Weezy, I'm back. Let's do this. Thanks for waking up early, man, to spend just the tip with us, Jarno. Good to see you in here. Last 7 legs, says Hammer and Hog, cashing that big parlay. Zach Singleton saying, love the bets and stats. Keep it up. Like, let's cash these tickets and stack them like flapjacks. Let's absolutely do that, Zach. Thank you for hanging out, brother. JSJ saying, just here to see Weezy finally break down a Mike Jackson fight. Grayson saying Andrade and Lemos are some violent lesbians. Let's go. Yes, they are. And I don't see that fight going the full 5. That's for sure. Ron Blair saying ass shaving time. You got that right. We got Lou Betcha saying Chase Sherman will always have a job as chat mod for the MMA engine. We got Brady Stevens saying, what's up, Weezy? And he's saying, I wasn't impressed by Lemos at all versus Hill. I think Hill got robbed in that fight. It was close. I actually did score it for Hill. For Lemos. But it was a very close fight. I agree with you there. Mushroom saying, at Lou Betcha, what's up, Lou? We got my guy Chris Kalanzis in the room. Uncle Hiffner doing what he does best. Preach, brother. I love the Uncle Hefner call. Yeah, and I mean the smoking jacket. It's a classic. Lou Betcha saying, what's up, boss? We got Tiffany Shriver, ring a ding ding, saying, I really enjoy all of your shows. Thank you. Thank you so much for the donation, Tiffany. Really appreciate you so much for that. And make sure to check us out tomorrow on Probability on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. We're going to be zooming in even further on those stats, giving you guys better visuals going forward here. We're looking forward to getting that show being the hottest show on YouTube. And we got Rick Sanchez saying, "What's up, brother?" We got Prince of Mischief saying, "Oi, let's go." Hammer and Hog saying, "Sorry, Weez, multi is Aussie slang for parlay." Yes, I know that. Bailey Rippinger saying, "Weezy, what's the letter grade rating for the card?" People are hating, but I definitely think this is a better fight night than last week. I think it's kind of like a C, a C minus card, but for betting, I think it's like an A. I think there's a lot of spots sticking out here. These violent spots on this card are the kind that we like to really go after. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I mean, from a betting perspective, I could see this being a great card for us. And yeah, you got it. Thank you for the donation, F. Carrillo. Always appreciate you, brother. Hammer and Hog saying, "What a legend." Appreciate that. Thursday, Weezy. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thursday. That's right. 2 days from now, not tomorrow. Dude, at this point, man, don't even know what fucking day it is. You guys lucky I even show up on time some of these times. My head is just swimming with MMA knowledge. I'm watching tape. I'm doing stats. I'm getting ready to figure out this card so that we all can make some money. Me, you, DFS by the numbers. This is an A+, says DFS by the numbers. Chase Sherman and Mike Jackson on the same card. This is nuts. Lou Betcha agreeing 100%, and I'm agreeing with all you guys. Look, we got a lot of work to do. 12 fights to break down. We got to go through it from nose to toes, from east to west, from north to south, and we got to find some angles to make some money betting on this card. Very quick recap of last week's betting card for me. Down 0.65 units, lost 2 units on the William Knight finish only prop. I loved that bet. Absolutely loved that bet. Shout out Victor de Jesus for letting me know about it, because I probably wouldn't have even seen that right off the bat. But yeah, man, Devin Clark gets his first finish in 7 now UFC wins, and it was late in the 3rd round. Knight definitely gassed in that fight and didn't show the conditioning that he's been known for in the past. And yeah, so I lost that one. Lost 0.75 units on Drakkar Close by decision. So that was down 2.75 units. And then I won just a little over a unit on the Caio Bahaio money line. And I won just a little over a unit on a Budai Sabatini parlay, down 0.65 units. My 4 losses this year have all been less than 1 unit. So I'm loving that. Some good big wins over 4 units this year, 5 units, and keeping the losses to a minimum. So looking to move forward on this card right now and get into these fights with you guys and find a way that we can get another 5+ unit up week here to start another winning streak rolling, you guys. So let's see if my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to start this show and ready to start breaking down these fights. And let me see here. That's the one. And I think Jimmy's ready, you guys. Yep, there he is, man. See that lock of the week? See that cigar? See that beautiful suit that he's got on? It's not your Uncle Weezy. It's not just me that's getting dressed up for this show. Smooth Jimmy always doing the same thing. Right 52% of the time, but when you're right 52% of the time, that means you're wrong 48% of the time. But hey, we're going to try to get it right this week for you guys. And let's start like we always do with the tail of the tape, you guys, for the very first night, for the very first fight of the night, you guys, a shit show. Dean Barry versus Mike Jackson. My word, what the hell did we do to deserve this? Dean Barry, 8 years younger than Mike Jackson. It's going to be Jackson with a 4-inch height advantage. Don't have the reach on either one of these guys, but I remember Jackson's, I don't even remember it, actually. Both of these guys are orthodox. Dean Barry, Team Rayano MMA, 4-ounce fight club for Mike Jackson. 5 professional fights for Barry, only 2 for Jackson. A little more cage time for Jackson. A 6-year career with 2 fights for Mike Jackson. Look, forget the numbers. This is dumb, you guys. This is dumb. We're not betting on this fight. It's minus 1,500 for Dean Barry right now. Let me get the banner up on the screen here. Plus 750 for Mike Jackson. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 230. If you guys haven't seen Dean Barry yet, this guy is a kickboxing champion who made the transition from kickboxing to mixed martial arts. He has a karate style. He kind of darts in and out, has some really nice lead leg switch kicks, power kicks with the rear leg. And, you know, he's kind of like a Stephen Thompson type when you watch him strike, darting in and out, managing distance well, a little bit of power, and, you know, just a really good point fighting kickboxer who can land big shots from time to time. Mike Jackson is more of just a pure boxer. He's got good hands. He's got good length for the division. We've seen him twice in the UFC, once against Mickey Gall, got his ass shaved right away in that one. The next time was against CM Punk, won that fight via decision. Mike Jackson's 1-1 in the UFC, 1 win by decision, 1 loss by submission. Yeah, there's no reason to bet this fight. This guy, Dean Barry, he's not very good, you guys. He doesn't belong here. Only 5 professional fights. His loss was like laughable. He got subbed after being taken down, like about 5 seconds after he was taken down. He was tapping to a rear naked choke from a guy who was 2-5 going into that fight. Corey Pretty Boy Samuels, or no, that wasn't Corey Samuels. He won that fight. It was Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor that beat Dean Barry. And, you know, and then with Mike Jackson, we got a guy here who's hasn't fought since like 2018, 2019. You know, Dana White said that he would never fight in the UFC again, and I see why. The guy, you know, is not UFC quality. You know, he's fought twice in 6 years. You know, there's really nothing to like here. The line is entirely too wide. If you put money on Dean Barry this week at minus 1,500, you guys, you really need to have your head examined. This guy is not good. He's not good. He's not UFC level. Neither is Mike Jackson, but you know, this guy, Dean Barry, would get his ass shaved by everybody on the roster at 170 pounds that has ever completed a takedown in their life. So this is a dumpster fire. Please don't bet this fight. If you do, because I love you, I will be sending the orderlies to your house. They will inject something into your arm, and you're going to wake up in a padded room somewhere, and nobody's even going to tell you why you're there. Just so you know, when you do wake up, fuck, this is because I'm a dumbass, and I bet on a guy who's minus 1,500, who's only got 5 professional fights. 1-800 gambler. Don't do it. We're moving on to the next one. The pick is Dean Barry, but who cares? We're not betting it. The next one is another one I'm not betting. Marcin Prachnio versus Philipe Lins. Prachnio is minus 117, slight favorite. Philipe Lins minus 103. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 215. The problem with this fight, you guys, is that it's probably not going to happen. Philipe Lins hasn't showed up to a fight since the year 2020. And since then, he has canceled fights with Don'Tale Mayes, Ben Rothwell on 3 different occasions, Ovin St. Preux, and Azamat Murzakanov. He's coming down from heavyweight to 205 pounds. We haven't seen Philipe Lins at 205 pounds, I think, in a very long time. Nemkov here at 2017 was the last time we saw him at this weight. So, you know, and then Prachnio is a guy who's not very good. He's a kickboxer. He is 3 years younger than Lins, 1 inch taller. It's going to be Lins who has a 4-inch reach advantage, you guys. The experience numbers extremely similar, but it's Prachnio who's been the far more active fighter here, fighting 20 times in less than 9 years, while Philipe Lins, it's barely 1 time a year. And I mean, that's probably why. I mean, if you never show up on fight day, then it's hard to actually rack up fights. So Lins was the heavyweight champion in PFL. He won $1 million there. PFL known for having a very rigorous drug testing program where they will give you a questionnaire and it says, have you used performance enhancing drugs? And then you either check yes or no, but then it sternly it warns you at the bottom that you are supposed to be honest on this. So Philipe Lins passed those drug tests, but then when he came into the UFC, he had to pass real drug tests, and then we saw him just look god awful. Try to stay awake during that Arlovsky fight. Nothing happened. And then he came out a little more aggressive against Tanner Boser and absolutely got his ass shaved. Made Tanner Boser look like a finisher. So Prachnio, you guys, has been knocked out 3 times in the UFC, all 3 of them in the first round. Philipe Lins used to knock people out when he was on the juice, but since then we don't know where this guy is. To be honest with you, I did very little taping of this fight because I don't think it's even going to happen. And if it does happen, I'm not gambling on it. But I do think that this fight probably finishes inside the distance. If there's one guy that Philipe Lins can knock out, it's Prachnio. Prachnio has been knocked out 3 times in the first round. Even like Villanueva had him in a little bit of trouble, and so did Roundtree. So I think Lins could knock out Prachnio, and I think Prachnio could potentially knock out Lins, as we saw Boser do. But I don't think Lins is going to show up. I don't know if Lins is going to make weight here at 205. And if he does, I don't know if we're going to see the Prachnio that has a chin or the Prachnio that doesn't have a chin. So I'm staying away from it. The pick is that it's not going to happen. But if these guys both do show up, I guess I'll go with Lins. But, guys, I'm not gambling on this one either. I don't care about this fight. I think the fight doesn't go to decision is a solid bet because these guys both get finished inside the distance when they do lose. We see that Prachnio in his 5 losses has been finished in 4 of them, and Lins in his 5 losses has been finished in 4 of them. 8 out of 10 losses coming inside the distance is a nice fight. Doesn't go to decision spot at -215. I think it's something we can definitely look into. Don't care who wins this fight because it's not going to happen. Next one that will happen, hopefully, is Aori Qileng versus Cameron Else. Qileng is -235 right now. Else coming back at +200. The fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced to the tits at -215 right now, especially for a bantamweight fight. These fights usually finish inside the distance around 50% of the time. Excuse me. So, to see something juiced up at about, 68, 69% is a little bit alarming, but there's a very good reason for it. So Aori Qileng, 6 years younger than Cameron Else. Here in Cameron Else, we got a 34-year-old bantamweight. It's going to be Else who's bigger, though, because Aori Qileng fought his last 2 fights at flyweight. He is moving up here to bantamweight for the first time in the UFC. However, he fought at bantamweight quite a bit on the regional scene here. Else is going to be the bigger guy, though, being the natural bantamweight. And Else has also fought at featherweight and lightweight in the past, you guys. So it does look like Else is going to be the much bigger man here on Saturday. But Aori Qileng, much more experienced here, and he's 6 years younger. So we got 11 more pro fights. Over 200 more minutes in the pro cage. And we see Cameron Else about 1.5 fights a year over just under a 10-year career, while Aori Qileng, dude, this guy is fighting about 4 times a year. He has been incredibly active. Aori Qileng with 1 more fight at the UFC level as well here. So we see Aori with a 39% finish rate in 18 career wins. So that would be 7 wins inside the distance. It would be 5 by knockout and 2 by submission. And Cameron Else is a killer be killed fighter. He has finished 100% of his wins, and he's been finished in 80% of his losses. The only fight of his that ever went to decision, it was just against somebody that was just very, 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 very low level. Cameron Else could not even breathe 6 minutes into the fight. If you had anybody with any experience or any bit of a gas tank, they could have finished this guy just by touching him. But Cameron Else is basically, one round or bust. This guy comes out like a madman, trying to take your head off. And if he's unsuccessful, he will quit in the second round. You got to love the fight doesn't go to decision for this one, you guys. So we look at the striking numbers here. We see Aori Qileng throwing 13.33 significant strikes attempts per minute, and his opponents are throwing 16.3. About 50% striking defense. He's been knocked down twice. And he has no knockdowns of his own. He's absorbing over 2 significant strikes more per minute than he lands. But Cameron Else is, landing 2 significant strikes a minute and absorbing almost 6. He fought against Kyler Phillips, a much higher level opponent than Aori Qileng in his UFC debut. So, but there's not much there to talk about. Cam Else is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, if I'm not mistaken. He is a guy who you have to watch out for his Darce chokes and his Anaconda chokes. He's got a great front headlock series that he uses to finish fights. He comes out swinging bombs, and if he knocks you down, he will try to finish the fight on the ground, either with ground and pound or via submission with those front chokes. Aori Qileng has done a nice job wrestling so far. He's gotten 4 of 7 takedown attempts. He's controlled his opponents just under 11% of the time, but he hasn't been that efficient on the ground as he's been out-controlled by his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio here, even though they've only gotten 1 more takedown than him. 55% takedown defense is not good. But Cameron Else hasn't tried a takedown in the UFC, and he's really not one going out there trying to take people down. I think Aori Qileng might try to win some minutes here by getting a takedown here or there in the fight, but really what this guy is going to do is march forward and throw bombs. He pressures nonstop. And I don't think Cameron Else is going to deal with that very well. I think Cameron Else is going to want to keep his distance on the feet and throw big hooks, try to catch him. But I think Aori Qileng is going to be fighting in a phone booth here and making this very difficult for Cameron Else. We don't have much in the way of the strength of schedule stats, but we can look at them on Tapology, you guys. And we do see that Cameron Else has one signature win. It is against Paddy Pimblett, but it was, when Paddy was very, very young. He was 4-0 at the time. So he does have a win back here. Paddy Pimblett, it was his 3rd fight, 35 seconds into round 1. He's got a loss to Spencer Hewitt. He's got 2 losses to Spencer Hewitt, 1 to Ed Arthur. This fight was great, the Damo Whedon fight. Cameron Else destroyed him for the entire first round. The fight could have been finished probably 3 or 4 times, but the referee let it go. And because Cam Else has got 1 round of gas, Damo Whedon came out swinging bombs in the second round, caught him and finished him. And then Kyler Phillips, obviously finished him in the second round as well. But you look at these wins, against 3-14 Brad Evans, against 0-1 Mark Stevens, against a 4-0 Aiden James. Aiden James is a quality fighter. 0-0 Tom Major, 1-1 Thomas Turdman, 0-0 Jordan Ramshaw, 3-0 Dylan Took, Paddy Pimblett back in 2013. So, this is not a guy that has beaten high-level opponents. Aori Qileng is a good matchup for him, but I really believe that Aori Qileng is going to pressure this guy. And the good thing about the Mongolian murderer, you guys, is that he does have a chin on him. He can absolutely take a shot. So even if Cameron Else does land a big shot, I think he can maybe take Cam down, win some minutes down there, and then get back up and get back to work here. So love the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight because Cameron Else is going to be extremely dangerous in the first round. But if he doesn't get the job done in the first, you're going to see Aori Qileng marching this guy down, pressuring him, and then breaking him and drowning him probably a couple of minutes into the second round here, you guys. But the pick is going to be Aori Qileng by second round knockout. And I love the fight doesn't go to decision. Even at minus 215 here, I got it earlier in the week at minus 180, I believe, for 1.8 units. So definitely going to be taking a long look at Aori Qileng inside the distance, you guys. And I'm already on the fight doesn't go to decision for this one. And let's see here. Yeah. Mushroom saying, oh boy, fight goes to decision. Fight goes to disappointment, actually. Minus 1,000. I don't know if that's talking about the first fight or the second fight, but they're both kind of disappointment. And yeah, and Lou Bet, you talking about the legendary Thomas Turdman. Tommy T. My guy B in the room saying, oi, just dropping in, smashing the like, and we'll be watching this on the replay. Let's make some money, B. Thanks for coming and hanging out, man. I really appreciate you. All right, you guys, the next fight is Tyson Pedro stepping into the cage against Isaac Villanueva, you guys. This is a wide line. Minus 600 for Tyson Pedro, plus 425 for Ike Villanueva. We got a fight, doesn't go to decision, sitting here at an 80% implied probability at minus 400. So Pedro, the much younger guy, 8 years younger, 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here. So huge tail of the tape advantages here for Pedro. Ike Villanueva, 21 more professional fights, 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and 5 more years as a pro. But it's Tyson Pedro who actually has 20 more minutes in the UFC cage and 1 more UFC level fight. So Tyson Pedro, a 100% finish rate. Ike Villanueva, an 83% finish rate. And Ike has been finished in 92% of his losses, and Tyson Pedro has been finished in 66% of his losses. 16 combined losses, you guys. Let's give you a little sneak peek at the prop template here to just take a look at the incredible numbers for fight doesn't go to decision here. If we zoom in on the prop template, you guys, we're going to see these fat numbers here. 15 of 18 wins and 7 of 7 for Pedro inside the distance for 22 of 25 combined wins inside the distance. 14 of 16 combined losses inside the distance for Pedro and Villanueva. That makes out of 41 combined fights for these guys, 36 have finished inside the distance. That's 88%. This is probably the most parlayable line on the card, you guys. If this one went the full 3 rounds, I would be absolutely shocked. I mean, you very rarely see in a 16-loss sample size guys pushing 90% finish rates. It almost never happens. And in addition to that, it's not like either of these guys has had problems finishing their wins in the past either. 100% finish rate for Pedro, an 83% finish rate and 18 wins for Ike Villanueva. And even in the UFC stuff here, you guys, 10 of their 11 combined fights and wins and losses have finished inside the distance, 91%. That's 33% better than the finish rate, which is 57.5% at 205 pounds, and 10.7% better than the implied probability of the line at minus 405, which is 80.2%, which is just actually 80% at minus 400. So yeah, this fight is probably not going to see the scorecards, you guys. When we look at the striking numbers for these two guys, Pedro lands a little bit more than he absorbs, 63% striking accuracy, a ton of power. Ike Villanueva is getting his face boxed off. He absorbs 8 significant strikes a minute and only absorbs 4.35, 40% accuracy, but he's got a knockdown here in 5 UFC fights. So he's got some power of his own, but he's being knocked down 2.23 times for 15 minutes, and Pedro is being knocked down 0.74 times for 15 minutes. So both of these guys got a ton of power in their hands. Both of these guys are chinny. We've seen Ike Villanueva taken down before. Well, not in the UFC, but we've seen him definitely on the regional scene taken down and submitted, as he's been submitted 5 times in his career. So Tyson Pedro is a guy who gets submissions, man. 71% of his pro wins by submission. 2 out of 3 UFC wins by submission. Tyson Pedro is going to be much better everywhere here, you guys. He's the better striker. He's the better grappler. He's the better wrestler. He's younger, but there's a big problem. Tyson Pedro hasn't fought in forever. Tyson Pedro is coming off a serious leg injury that he suffered in the Mauricio Shogun Hua fight that caused him to be finished in the 3rd round. So we haven't seen Tyson Pedro since the year 20. 18, you guys. 2019, 2020, 2021, 3 full years and 4 months since we have seen this guy in the cage. So do we lay minus 600 on a guy that we haven't seen in the cage and that has had some serious injuries? It's not a good long-term strategy. Is Tyson going to get the job done on Saturday? Most likely, you guys. But to lay minus 600 on this kid, I just can't recommend it. But I can recommend parlaying that fight doesn't go to decision at minus 400, you guys. This fight is going to finish inside the distance. Ike throws hands with bad intentions, and Tyson Pedro throws kicks. He's got serious power in his hands and his legs. He's much bigger than Ike here, and I think he can take Ike down and submit him as well. So I think that this is going to be pretty easy for Tyson Pedro, but at minus 600, there's really no value in the money line. At almost minus 250, there's no value in the fight in betting him that he's going to win inside the distance either. So parlay up, the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 400. And that's probably the only legitimate way to play this fight. But Tyson Pedro should absolutely get this one done inside the distance. I'll say second round knockout, you guys. The next fight, Dwight Grant versus Sergey Khandozhko. Boy, this is a hard one to know what to do with here. We haven't seen Sergey Khandozhko in the cage in a minute, you guys. But he's got 34 professional fights, and he's much younger than Dwight Grant. So the last time we saw him was against Rustam Khabilov back in 2019. So once again, all of 2020, all of 2021. This is about 2.5 years since we've seen Sergey in the cage. So Khandozhko, 29 years old, and Grant is 37. Both of these guys are the same height. It's going to be Grant with a 2-inch reach advantage. Grant fights out of both stances, while Khandozhko is an orthodox fighter. It's going to be Khandozhko, 18 more professional fights. He's got about 80 more minutes of cage time and almost 8 more years as a pro. But it's Dwight Grant who actually has 5 more UFC level fights, 44 more minutes in the UFC cage. And we look at the finish rates here. Dwight Grant only finishes by knockout. He has finished 7 of 11 fights inside the distance by knockout and 2 of his 4 UFC fights by knockout, while Sergey has finished 38% of his wins by knockout, 27% by sub. That is 65% of his 26 wins coming inside the distance. That's 8 of 26 coming inside the distance here. 16 of 26 coming inside the distance. And he's been finished in 3 of 6 losses, and Dwight Grant's been finished in 1 of 4 losses. The striking numbers that we have here for the UFC show Dwight Grant landing more than he absorbs and throwing way more than his opponents do. But a 33.5% striking accuracy is not good. Both of these guys show some nice power. Over 1% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed for both of these guys. And Dwight Grant has been knocked down 3 times in 7 fights, but I believe that was all in one fight. It might have been the Rodriguez fight, which was just an absolute 1-round barn burner where it had like 4 knockdowns. So that was a crazy fight. But Grant's got a lot of power in his hands, and Sergey looks for spinning kicks, and he's got a lead left hook that he basically spends the entire fight trying to set up. He throws it all the time. So I think that both of these guys, when we look at the grappling numbers, Dwight Grant, 3 takedown attempts in 7 fights. Khandozhko, 6 takedown attempts in 2 fights. So Khandozhko will probably be the guy more likely to wrestle here, but neither one of these guys has been very active trying to wrestle their opponents thus far in the UFC. Less than 4% control time for Khandozhko, less than 3% control time for Dwight Grant. So this does look like a fight where both of these guys are going to be more comfortable on the feet, and both of these guys are going to be looking to keep the fight standing. And in that case, I think it's going to be a close fight. I mean, we know what Dwight Grant is at this point. He's 37 years old. He's definitely getting towards the end of his career right now. He only has 15 professional fights, and he's been, didn't turn pro until his late 20s. So this guy, is pretty predictable in terms of he's going to be throwing bombs. He's going to try to outvolume his opponents, be defensively responsible, and land that big strike before his opponent does. Sergey is going to be doing the exact same thing, trying to land that lead left hook, trying to suck you into his spinning back kick to the body. That's how he gets a lot of his wins. In terms of UFC strength of schedule, it's Dwight Grant, who's got a little bit worse of a ratio, but a little bit more in the total fights area here. The wins are better for Grant for sure, and the losses are very comparable for both of these guys. But we kind of have to go here. So here's Dwight Grant. And when we see some of the wins on Dwight Grant's resume, Sekulich, which was probably a loss. I scored that fight for Sekulich. Alan Jouban, very close fight. Pedro Soli, Tyler Hill, 8-1. Don Muhammad, 5-0 in Bellator. Jordan Williams, 5-1. Adam Corrigan, Sergio Vasquez. Got a loss at Chase Owens way back in the day in 2011. We won't even talk about that. So some good wins here. You know, Jordan Williams is a UFC level competitor here. Tyler the Zombie Hill, 8-1. You know, wins over Pedro Soli, Jouban, and Sekulich, which were all very close fights. But then, you know, almost beat Daniel Rodriguez and then had a split decision loss to a uber veteran like Francisco Trinaldo. And then we look at Khandozhko. And, you know, and yes, he lost to Khabibov, and Khabilov's a stud. But then it's like he's in ACB, so he's fighting quality competition over there in ACB. But, like, you look at these names and, you know, a loss to Benny Alloway in 2016, you know, there's not much there. Patrick Kinsey in 2016. Stanislav Lysenko, 8-3. These wins over guys like Akman, Adriano Rodriguez, Miller Kuoto, Stanislav Lysenko, Mauricio Machado, Guillermo Martinez Aime, Sergey Fale, Vasily Fedorich. I mean, decent fighters, you know, but these aren't guys that we've really heard of. Lost to Duraev at 170 pounds, by the way, back in 2015. Albert Duraev used to make 170, and now he's fighting at 205. So, you know, I mean, obviously, Khandozhko doesn't, his wins don't have the cachet that Grant's do. But, you know, these guys are going to be very close, and the line is reflecting that. You know, who lands the first big shot? I don't know. Who's the one that's more likely to wrestle? Probably Khandozhko. Having fought in ACB, this guy has seen a lot of wrestling in his day. But both of them have. You know, even Dwight Grant, who's attempted 3 takedowns, his opponents have tried 24. And Khandozhko has had 17 attempts against him in only 2 fights. So, you know, Khandozhko is, you know, probably going to be the one that's better equipped to handle the wrestling exchanges here. But, you know, I think that Dwight Grant has more power. I think that he's fought and beaten the better brand of competition here. And he's been more active, as we haven't seen Khandozhko here in a minute. So I think I'm going to pick Grant here, but I am not touching this fight, you guys. It's hard to know where a guy like Khandozhko is going to be coming back from this long layoff, which is over 2 years. But he's still only 29 years old, and he's got 33 professional fights. So we could see Khandozhko come back and even show some better improvements than we were expecting out of him. He's young, so he can still be getting better. I think that we've already seen the finished product of Dwight Grant. It's a very close fight. I'm going to pick Dwight Grant here to win by a greasy split decision, which is what these guys have been to a lot. And I mean, you look here, Dwight Grant, split decision loss against Trinaldo, split decision win against Sekulich, split decision win against Jouban. You know, so this guy's going to the split decisions quite a bit. So might be an opportunity for us to play a split decision prop on this fight because the bookies see it as close. And I think that these guys have a fairly similar skill set and they're well matched. But let's move on to the next fight, you guys. One that's a little bit easier to handicap here because it's a Jourdain Wright fight. And we've got Jourdain Wright squaring off against Marc-Andre Barriault. Jourdain Wright, an underdog at plus 160. Barriault coming back at minus 185. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 240 here. So Jourdain Wright 2 years younger, an inch taller, and having a 3-inch reach advantage gives Jourdain Wright a nice little measurables advantage here. It's Barriault with 4 more professional fights, 150 more minutes in the pro cage, and 4 more months as a pro, not to mention 2 more UFC level fights and 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Barriault much more experienced. Barriault with a 69% finish rate in his 13 wins, and Jourdain Wright with a 100% finish rate in his 12 wins. Jourdain Wright with a 100% finish rate in his 3 losses, and Barriault has only been finished in 1 of 5 losses. It was his last fight, which happened this year. Chidi Njokuani caught him and knocked him out in the very first round. So we've got a killer-be-killed fighter here in Jourdain Wright. 18 fights. All of them have finished inside the distance, and he has never once seen a third round. So we love betting on fight doesn't go to decision when we see those kind of numbers, you guys. Give me just a second. Okay, so Wright comes out like a madman, trying to take your head off, throwing big shots, big kicks, spinning shit. He lands 8.09 significant strikes per minute and absorbs 8.29. He's throwing 12.68 and his opponents throw 13.48. A pathetic 38.5% striking defense by Jourdain Wright makes him very hittable, but he's 64% accurate when he throws. He's landing a knockdown on 2.5% of the significant strikes that he lands, which means he's had 3 knockdowns in only 81 significant strikes landed here. Or wait, is that 2? That's only 2 knockdowns in 81. Excuse me. And Barriault has landed 2 knockdowns in 494 significant strikes landed. But it's this number here, you guys, 6 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes for Jourdain Wright is a serious problem. This guy's been knocked down on 5% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. This is a guy who has been knocked down, 4 times in 5 fights. So, killer be killed fighter. Barriault, is somebody who uses his conditioning as a weapon, really likes to take over fights late, uses volume, pressure to hurt his opponents. Now, Wright is going to come out and really kind of match the pressure that Barriault is going to put on him. And I think it's going to be a car crash, and somebody's probably going to get knocked out in the very first round here. Jourdain Wright doesn't wrestle. 1 takedown attempt for him, 2 takedown attempts against him. Barriault has attempted 8 takedowns in 7 fights and gotten 2 of them, and his opponents have taken him down 10 times in 7 fights. I don't think we're going to see much grappling here. I think these guys are going to stand and throw bombs, and I think it's going to be very exciting. I have 2 bets on this fight, you guys. I've got Jourdain Wright by first round knockout at plus 1,000 on Bet Online. I grabbed that as soon as I saw it. I've got a quarter unit on that. And then I also have at minus 210, 2.1 units on the fight doesn't go to decision here. I think it's a must bet for every Jourdain Wright fight. And why you're getting Jourdain Wright at minus 210 and you have to pay minus 400 for Tyson Pedro shows why I have a bet on this fight, but I don't have a bet on the Pedro Villanueva fight because the value just isn't there. At 80% implied probability, there's no point in betting it. But here, you're getting it at a little bit better than 66% implied probability, which isn't bad. So it's closer to 70 at minus 240, but still 10% better than 80%. It leaves you a little more room over the long run that you can bet those fights and have 1 or 2 of them not go your way over the long run and still be profitable. So, if we look at the strength of schedule that these guys have faced here, it's Marc-Andre Barriault who has the slightly better wins because of the ratio. These guys are fighting similar brands of competition, but Barriault has an edge. And Barriault's got an edge pretty much everywhere here, you guys, in terms of the strength of schedule, but it's not much. So Jourdain Wright going to be much bigger. Jourdain Wright going to be more powerful here, but he's also chinnier. Barriault more durable. And durability is a great thing to have against Jourdain Wright, because Jourdain Wright is not durable. He is a great hammer and a very, very bad nail. So the pick here is going to be Marc-Andre Barriault. I think he gets it done at the end of the very first round here. And if he doesn't, it'll probably be in round 2. But if Jourdain Wright does have success, it'll be in the very first round, and it will be violent, because that's the way he starts off his fights. He looks like he doesn't like to get paid by the hour. He just wants to show up, work, and get the hell out of there. And I think that you guys and I will be getting the hell out of the sports book with a cash ticket if we have the fight doesn't go to decision for this one, you guys. But yeah, I'm going to call Marc Barriault first round knockout, but at 10-1 for Jourdain Wright by his only win condition, I couldn't pass that up for a quarter unit. Quarter unit to win 2.5 units. I think Jourdain Wright is always most dangerous in the first half of the first round, and he's got the kind of strikes that can absolutely put you on your heels and get you out of there quickly. Next fight, though, is going to be Manel Kape at -180, squaring off against Mudaerji at +155. We've got a fight doesn't go to decision here at plus money at +105. So Mudaerji, 2 years younger, 3 inches taller, 4-inch reach advantage, and both of these guys are southpaws. So it's an interesting southpaw versus southpaw matchup here, but it's Su who's younger, taller, and longer. We got Manel Kape with 5 more professional fights and 80 more minutes of cage time. Now, the thing about Mudaerji, you guys, he's got a 2.44 minute average fight time. He has finished 86% of his wins inside the distance, and he has been finished in all 4 of his pro losses. While Manel Kape, in his 17 professional wins, has finished 16 of them inside the distance, you guys. He's got a 94% finish rate, and he's been finished in 2 of his 6 losses, both times by submission. Both of these guys have very similar UFC experience numbers. They both have 4 fights. They both have just under 40 minutes of cage time, and the average fight time for both of these guys just under 10 minutes. If we look at the striking numbers here, Mudaerji does a very good job on the feet here. He lands more than twice as many significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, landing 4.5, absorbing 2.2. He throws about 1.8 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents, 51% accurate, 69% striking defense almost for Mudaerji, and he's never been knocked down while having 1 knockdown in 4 UFC fights. Manel Kape has 3 knockdowns in 4 UFC fights. He's landing at a 53% accuracy. He's getting a knockdown on 1.65% of the significant strikes that he lands, and he's averaging 1.16 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he has never been knocked down, just like Su. However, 51% striking accuracy in comparison to 68 for Mudaerji. So it's Mudaerji who's going to be longer, more defensively responsible, and he's more mobile on the feet. He moves his feet better. He moves laterally more. And he throws a lot more volume than Manel Kape. So on the feet, I think Mudaerji easily wins minutes here, and he's just got to watch out to not lose moments. Because if he loses moments in this fight, Manel Kape, with a 94% finish rate in 17 professional wins, he can be losing a fight up until the point that he wins it. And Su's going to have to be very careful about that, because he has been finished in all 4 of his losses. Now, Su has attempted 1 takedown, and he's gotten it. His opponents have attempted 9 and gotten 2. So, Su's fights have taken place at striking range 70% of the time. He spent 30% of his fights being controlled or controlling his opponents. Manel Kape, 2 of 7 on takedowns and 4 UFC fights, but less than 3% control time for, and less than 8% control time allowed. So Manel Kape is spending 90% of his fights standing. So I think that we can anticipate a striking match here. Manel will wrestle, but he doesn't really hold guys down when he gets them to the ground. So will we see him do that this time around? I mean, potentially, but it's we can't really predict it based on what we've seen on the regional scene footage and in the UFC thus far. And we do have a 4-fight sample size. So in a 4-fight sample size to be standing 90% of the time, I think that we can pretty much count on this fight taking place at striking range. That's where Tszyu is most comfortable. And I think Sue's going to want to keep this there. I think Manel Kape, in order to justify the price tag that he's got right now, is got to win this fight by mixing in the wrestling, and he's got to be first at some points. He just can't be sitting there waiting to counter Mudaerji, because Tszyu is longer. He's going to be able to hit Manel when Manel can't hit him. And Tszyu moves very well on his feet, so I don't think it's going to be particularly easy for Manel just to march this guy down. And if he does, he might eat some big shots on the way in. You guys, I think Mudaerji is going to win this fight. I don't just like Tszyu because I think it's 50-50 and he's plus money here at plus 155. I think Tszyu wins this fight because Manel Kape has shown piss poor fight IQ. It doesn't show urgency. And he's lost a lot of minutes in this cage by waiting for his opponents. Tszyu's going to throw more volume. I think he's going to be hard to find. He's been much more defensively responsible than Manel Kape has. I kind of feel like if Kape's going to win this fight, he's kind of like knockout or bust. This guy's won one decision in 23 professional fights. He's not a minute winner. He never has been. He tries to find one big shot and end his opponent. And if he doesn't, he's been to decision 5 times in his career, and he's lost 4 of those fights. Mudaerji has been to decision twice in his career, and he's won both of those fights. So I think Tszyu's going to be the better minute winner here. I think Manel Kape is, like I said, knockout or bust. And I think he could get the knockout here. I just think that Tszyu's a much better striker than him. It's just from what I've seen on tape that this guy is going to be longer, smoother. He's going to have a better diversity of attacks, and he doesn't just wait for one big shot, and he is conscious about winning minutes and winning striking exchanges as they occur. So if we look at the strength of schedule here, this is the biggest thing, obviously, though, to like about Kape. This is a huge step up in competition for Mudaerji. Look at the 2.14 ratio for Kape compared to 0.86 for Tszyu. And we see the wins here a little bit better for Manel Kape, but the wins aren't great. That's the thing. The wins are pretty much just as good for Mudaerji with Adeshev, Gordon, and Sukumta as compared to Zhumagulov and Odi Osborne from Manel Kape. It's just that I think that people are getting lost on the fact that Manel Kape, fought against Nicolau, that he fought against Pantoja, but he lost both of those fights because he just gave away minutes freely by doing nothing for large swaths of the fight. If he does that and doesn't find a knockout against Tszyu, he's probably going to go to the scorecards and lose another decision. So I'm going to probably have a bet. I don't have one yet on Mudaerji, but everybody's so high on Manel Kape. I could see this going to minus 200, minus 210, even close to fight time, maybe minus 220. If I can get Mudaerji pushed up around plus 180, plus 190, I think I'm going to be making a bet here, you guys. But the pick is going to be Mudaerji by decision. Next fight, though, very interesting one here between Maycee Barber and Montana De La Rosa. So hang on, let me just see if there's anything in here, you guys. And just my 2 cents says, come on, Weezy. Osborne and ZZ Top are much better wins than Andre and Zaruk, bro. They are better. Yeah, I mean, but they're not much better. You guys, they're not much better. It's not like he's beating Nicolau and Pantoja and then going down to Mudaerji here. I mean, if Zhumagulov faced off against Zaruk Adeshev, that would be a close fucking fight. I mean, I really do believe that. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, just my 2 cents. Yeah, the wins are probably better for Kape, but not much better. Not much better. Manel presents a danger that Tszyu hasn't faced yet. He also got subbed by a 3-3 jobber in Smoka. 3-3. Smoka's got like fucking 14 UFC fights. And yeah, and by the way, Smoka actually goes for submissions and wrestles. Manel Kape, he might, but you're talking about a guy with less than 3% control time in the UFC thus far. So, you know, I mean, if you think that Kape's going to wrestle Sue and win down there, okay, when have we seen him do that? I mean, I haven't seen him do that. So Manel will have a big speed advantage as well. Completely disagree on the speed advantage. He's not faster than Mudaerji. Are you out of your mind? I mean, they might be similar in speed, but no, Manel is not faster than Mudaerji. But it's Sue likely for the win, says keep it cool. Kape does have, you know, fast hands, better cardio for Sue as well. But one thing we got to mention, Mudaerji is coming off a knee injury, you guys, and he has not fought in a while. So we don't, you know, this is a tough fight. It's a step up in competition without question. And he is coming off a knee injury. We haven't seen Mudaerji since January 20th, 2021. So it's been a year and 3 months, you guys. So yeah, I mean, I get it if you're on the Kape side. I'm not saying he's bad. He is explosive, but he is like the definition of a puncher's chance. He's a power guy. He's a minute loser up until he lands that big shot, and then he turns the fight and wins it. So I think if Sue manages distance well, if he moves those feet well, if his conditioning and his movement are on point here, I think that he's going to be able to outpoint Manel Kape and make this look a lot closer than what the line is saying right now. But anyway, we're going back now to De La Rosa versus Barber. And there's some interesting stats I wanted to look at here, you guys, for this particular fight. So, and let me see here. Okay. Comments. All right, got the comments up, got the banner up for Barber. All right, so let's get back to work here, you guys. Maycee Barber, the future, 23 years old. Montana De La Rosa, very young herself, born on Valentine's Day, 1995, 27 years old. So Montana bigger. She's got 2 inches of height. She's got 3 inches of reach. Barber definitely fights out of both stances, power in both hands, while Montana is an orthodox fighter. Barber, Rufus Sport, Factory X. She was doing some work with Team Alpha Male because she had Uriah in her corner in the Maverick fight. So she's been all over the place. Montana De La Rosa, as far as I know, is still with Elevation Fight Team. So De La Rosa more experienced, 8 more fights, about 90 more minutes in the cage, and about 3 more years as a pro, 1 more UFC level fight, and about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Montana's bigger, and she's got more pro experience and more UFC experience. In terms of finishing, they're both excellent finishers. Just a little bit better for Barber on the percentage here at 78% to 75% for Montana. Maycee's never been finished in 2 pro losses. Montana has been finished in 2 of her 6 pro losses. 8 combined losses, only 2 of them coming inside the distance. So we kind of like that for a fight goes to decision. When we look at the striking numbers here, Maycee lands about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs. She throws way more volume than her opponents. She's got 50% striking accuracy. No knockdowns, which is surprising because she's got power. But she's been knocked down once in 7 UFC fights and allowing 0.19 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Montana absorbs more significant strikes per minute than she lands. She lands 2.87, absorbs 3.17, much less accurate than Maycee, but she does have 1 knockdown in 8 UFC fights, and she's never been knocked down. But a 45% striking defense is not particularly great. It's been Barber who's been more defensively responsible. And, you know, when this is on the feet, Maycee Barber does her best work when she's pressuring her opponent, okay? When she stands in front of her opponent, boy, the Grasso fight was a really bad example of that. Miranda Maverick was pressuring Maycee in her last fight. So I equate success with Barber with pressure. I think that's when she's doing her best work. If Barber's not pressuring you, she's going to be very easy to beat. As a matter of fact, if Barber doesn't pressure De La Rosa in this fight, I think De La Rosa is going to look minus 200 here. These girls' striking is comparable, in my opinion, you guys. Barber is just okay on the feet. If she's not walking forward and making you back up, she's just not that dangerous. Montana is looking to set up those wrestling entries, and she's going to use her striking to try to do that. Now, while she's on the feet, she has been getting better. I mean, like, the striking has been getting better for Montana De La Rosa. And for Barber, I think she does her best work in the clinch, and like I say, when she's pressuring. But I think if these two are just standing in front of each other and circling and trading jabs, I think that it's actually going to be very close. But the problem here is that Montana De La Rosa has been very, very effective, you guys, in the grappling exchanges. Look at this. 43% control time for and only 7.6% control time against. So Montana's fights are taking place at striking range less than 50% of the time. Quiet, you. Excuse me. Come on, you gotta go. You gotta go. Sorry, we only tolerate, the dog in terms of chipping in on the show because he actually has a Bet MMA tips account and is winning money. But the cat right now is just kind of annoying, so I had to get her out of the room. So De La Rosa, you guys, 45 takedown attempts in 8 UFC fights. So she is attempting more than 5 takedown attempts per fight. She's getting them at a 31% clip, averaging 2.25 takedowns per 15 minutes and 1.12 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So she's doing a good job of out-controlling her opponents, winning minutes on the ground. Maycee Barber has 7 takedowns and her opponents only have 2, yet she's being out-controlled 15% to 24.5%. So Maycee can be controlled on the cage. She can be controlled on the ground. She has shown that thus far on the aggregate. I don't think there's any question that Montana De La Rosa is the better wrestler and that she's the better submission grappler here. Montana De La Rosa has 8 career wins by submission. Maycee has 2. So Montana, was a high school wrestler. She can get the fight to the ground, and she will chain takedown attempts together to try to get that fight to the ground and keep it there. And she's been very good at doing that. She's out-controlling her opponents at a 6-to-1 ratio, while Maycee Barber's opponents are almost out-controlling her at a 2-to-1 ratio, despite the fact Maycee has 5 more takedowns than her opponents do. So let's look at the advanced stats here. I want to show you guys something. So that's Montana's stats. Okay, so we look at Montana's stats here, and we look at the takedown attempts, right? 3 takedown attempts, 12, 6, 3, 12, 3, 6, and 0. So 45 takedown attempts. She's getting takedowns in basically every damn fight except for the first 2 fights, and she won both of those fights. Then she's 2 out of 3, 5 of 12, 1 of 3, 1 of 6, 3 of 12, 2 of 3. And you see all these numbers here, 412 seconds of control time, 552 seconds of control time, 510 seconds of control time, 382, 254. In the fights that she's losing, which is this fight and this fight, she's 6 of 18 on her takedowns, which is pretty good, but it's 2 of the lower control time numbers that she's had. She does really kind of need the control time to rack up some control time in order to win fights, because if she's just going to be at distance, especially with strikers the quality of Andrea Lee and Viviane Araujo, these are better distance strikers than Maycee Barber, you guys. So she needs to be pushing the wrestling, and when she wins, she does that. In these fights, if you take out the 5 of 12 and the 1 of 6, you're seeing 27 takedown attempts, and she's gotten 8 of them. So it's about the same percentage in her wins as in her losses that she's getting these takedowns. It's just that when she gets them, she's racking up the control time. 2 takedowns, 400 seconds of control time. 3 takedowns, 552 seconds of control time. In this fight, a knockdown and a takedown yielded 510 seconds of control time. So when she gets you down, she keeps you down, you guys. But girls like Andrea Lee and Viviane Araujo, who stopped 7 takedowns and 5 takedowns and then got back up when they were taken down, were able to beat her. Now let's look at Maycee Barber's numbers. So Maycee Barber has 2 losses to Alexa Grasso and Roxanne Modafferi here. And in those 2 losses, what did she do? She gave up more than 100 seconds of control time. In her wins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in none of those fights did her opponent get more than 100 seconds of control time. 81, 44, 39, 28, and 0. But when she gave up 310 seconds of control time to Grasso and 630 seconds of control time to Modafferi, she lost those fights, you guys. Here's the other problem. Takedown attempts. Look at this. 6 takedown attempts in 7 fights. That's how many takedown attempts Maycee Barber has faced. You know who this reminds me of? Reminds me of Vicente Luque against Bilal Muhammad just a couple days ago, you guys. We saw a guy in Luque who in 17 UFC fights had only faced more than 2 takedown attempts 3 times, and he was 1-2 in those 2 fights. And the fight that he won was against Nico Price, and Nico had taken him down a couple of times, and Luque had to have a late 3rd round knockout in order to come back and win that fight. I've kind of seen the same thing here with Maycee Barber. Nobody has ever tried to wrestle Maycee Barber. And when she does face 2 takedown attempts here, you know, she actually wins those fights. But look, I mean, like, she gave up a knockdown and a takedown to Grasso, or I mean to what's her name? Modafferi, and lost that fight. And Grasso didn't even have to take her down in order to control her for 310 seconds. So I like Montana De La Rosa in this fight, you guys. You know, I think that she's got a path here. She can wrestle. She can do something that Maycee Barber's opponents haven't tried to do to her yet. And that's to back her up against the cage, take her down, and win minutes there. And even if she doesn't, I think the distance striking will be close if Maycee's not pressuring her. We've seen Maycee, since the knee injury, allow her opponents to pressure her instead of the other way around, and it's not working for her. Maycee's at her best when she's walking forward, throwing bombs. But when she does that, she's going to leave herself open to reactive double legs from Montana. And I think Montana's going to be able to get this fight to the ground and control it there. I don't know why Maycee Barber is such a big favorite here. And I'm going to be placing a bet on Montana De La Rosa to win this one by decision, you guys. But I'm going to be just betting that money line because it's a plus money here, sitting at plus 156. So the pick is Montana De La Rosa by control-based decision here, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying. Just my 2 cents saying agreed about Luque Muhammad, Weezy. And sometimes you have to just see how many times a fighter has faced the kind of game plan that they're going to face in their upcoming matchup. And if they've had trouble with that game plan in the past, sometimes it's reasonable to say, as at that underdog money, that that's a good bet. And Jake saying, I'm afraid to bet anyone by decision. I'm always afraid something fluky will happen and they'll get a finish instead. Dude, I had Drakkar close by decision last week, and he came out like a fucking house of fire. And I knew 20 seconds into that fight that there was no way it was seeing the scorecards. That's how it goes sometimes, Jake. You place those decision bets, you need to be pretty damn sure that that's most of the win condition of the person that you're betting on. Otherwise, you get burned by him more times than not. And keep it cool saying, what an argument. I'm in on the dog. I appreciate that. Let's hope I'm right about it. And Victor De Jesus saying, I refuse to bet anyone to win by decision, regardless of dominance, when Sal D'Amato is judging the fights. Nope, not happening. Couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. This is a tough one. If Maycee keeps it standing, it could get greasy. If Montana is successful grassling, it's De La Rosa all day. Absolutely, man. But let's move on to this next fight because it's another great one. It's Lando Vannata against Charles Jourdain. Let's get that banner up for you guys. We've got Lando and Charles coming in at a pick'em here at -110, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus money here, plus 120. So Charles, 4 years younger, and it's going to be Lando who has a 2-inch reach advantage here. It's going to be Lando with 2 more professional fights, Charles with 40 more minutes of cage time, and Lando with 4 more years as a pro. So this is another guy in Jourdain here who's fighting about 3 times a year, while for Lando, it's about 2 times a year. So definitely a lot more active Jourdain has been recently, and he's the younger fighter. Vannata with the UFC experience edge here with about 40 more minutes in the UFC cage and 4 more UFC fights. Both of these guys, fantastic finishers. Jourdain, 11 of 12 wins inside the distance. Vannata, 9 of 12 wins inside the distance. That's 20 of 24 wins coming inside the distance for these guys, about an 86% finish rate. So that would have a lot of people thinking this is a great fight to bet that it's not going to go to decision. But the problem is these guys are durable. Charles Jourdain has been finished once, and that was by a choke in the 3rd round by Julian Rosa that just got wrapped up absolutely beautifully. And Vannata has only been finished once in 5 losses. So in 9 combined losses, only 2 of them have come inside the distance, both of them by submission. When we look at the striking numbers for these guys, we got Vannata lands 4.67, absorbs 4.77. He's got some decent knockdown numbers here with 5 knockdowns in 11 fights. And he's been knocked down only once in 11 fights. 54% striking defense, and he throws just a little more volume than his opponents. Better numbers for Jourdain. He lands 1 more significant strike than he absorbs. He's more accurate than Lando, and he's got 6 knockdowns in 7 UFC fights. So he's shown a little more power, landing 0.93 knockdowns per 15 minutes in comparison to 0.56 for Vannata. And Jourdain has been knocked down twice in 7 fights. So the striking numbers are very, very similar here. Both of these guys are flashy strikers. Vannata throws just a little less volume on the aggregate than Jourdain does. Both of these guys are spending 20% of their fights in grappling positions and control time positions and 80% striking. It's Vannata who's going to be the much more willing wrestler here, though, as he's attempted 25 takedowns in 11 fights, while Jourdain has only attempted 3 takedowns in 7 fights, and Jourdain has never even gotten a takedown in the UFC. And he's been taken down 13 times. The thing is that Jourdain has been very good at getting up. So Vannata could win some minutes on the ground here. But I think that Jourdain will probably be winning the minutes on the feet, as he's a little more active, a little more urgent. The best thing about Charles Jourdain is round 3 of his fights. This guy comes out like a house of fire. I've never seen him get tired. He goes balls to the wall. He's really trying to finish everybody. The only guy that Jourdain didn't finish in his career was Andre Ewell. And if you watched that fight, you know he was so close to finishing that fight in the last 15 seconds of the 3rd round there. Same thing with the Kulabau fight. I really like what I see out of Charles Jourdain late in fights, you guys. But Vannata, he's the guy that's kind of been fighting the better brand of competition here. Look at this, a 1.63 ratio for Vannata compared to 1.04 for Jourdain. He's fighting the more experienced competition. He's beating the better, more experienced competition, and he's losing to the better competition here. So Vannata's got a strength of schedule advantage, and I believe that Vannata's got the wrestling advantage here and the ability to be able to win minutes on the ground. But I do see Charles Jourdain having the striking advantage here, having the conditioning advantage. He's the younger man. And in terms of reach, it's Vannata. In terms of experience, it's very, very close, but I'd edge Vannata here. This is a great fight. I really think this could potentially be fight of the night. Two flashy strikers throwing bombs at each other. I'm going to pick Charles Jourdain to win this fight. I think that he is going to be the guy doing the more impressive things, the more eye-catching things that will get the judges to say that this is his fight. So, yeah, I'm going to be picking Jourdain here, but I don't think I'm going to be gambling on this fight. It's a pick 'em for a reason. It's very close. They're trying to get you to say that the fight doesn't go to decision by giving you plus money, by hiding the fact in the stats that these guys don't get finished very often, man. So I think that this fight actually goes to decision, and I think whichever one of these guys winds up getting the win, if you take that decision prop, you might have a chance to cash that one. But I'm going to be staying away. But the pick, you guys, is going to be Charles Jourdain to win this one by decision. Let's get this next fight up here. Another pick 'em, you guys. Clay Guida, one of the best of all time, one of my favorite fighters of all time at -110. Squaring off against Claudio Puelles at -110. Fight doesn't go to decision at +160 here. This one is juiced to the tits in terms of fight goes to decision here. We've got Claudio Puelles is only 25 years old, you guys. He's 15 years younger than the venerable KG veteran Clay Guida. 4 inches taller. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw going up against the orthodox fighter here in Clay Guida. It's going to be Clay Guida, surprise, surprise, who has the experience advantage. 45 more professional fights. 450 plus more minutes in the pro cage, 8 more years or 10 more years as a pro, 27 more UFC fights, and about 300 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Puelles finishing at a 73% rate, Guida finishing at a 56% rate. Puelles has been finished in one of 2 pro losses, and it's been Clay Guida who's been finished in 58% of his 21 losses. So that would be, I think, 11 out of 21, or maybe it's 12. But either way, it's a pretty decent amount. And he has been subbed in 10 of his 21 pro losses. So 10 submission losses for Clay Guida and 6 submission wins for Claudio Puelles here as a pro. When we look at the striking numbers for this one, both of these guys absorb more significant strikes per minute than they land. It's going to be Clay Guida, who's inaccurate, but also very hard to find. 62% striking defense over a 32 fight sample size for Clay Guida. So you've watched Clay fight. He's always moving. That hair is bouncing up and down. He's left, he's right, he's bouncing. When the round is over and you're supposed to sit down on a stool, Clay Guida's like over there and bouncing around, still waiting for the next fight, for the next round to start. The guy's got fantastic conditioning, an endless gas tank here. And he's a great wrestler. I mean, the guy has been one of the best lightweights of all time in figuring out ways to win minutes on the ground and bank rounds on the ground in order to get decision victories. And he could do it with his wrestling. And he's been one of the masters at doing it. Puelles is kind of like using his striking to set up his grappling attacks. This guy has always been a grappler first. He's not really knocking guys out. He has his success on the ground. And, you know, we could tell here that he's absorbing about 1 more significant strike than he lands per minute. He's got sub 50% striking defense. He's been knocked down 2 times in 5 fights, and he's allowing about a half knockdown per 15 minutes, and he's never knocked anybody down. And his opponents are throwing 1.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than him, while Guida is throwing just a little more attempts per minute than his opponents are. So, yeah, Claudio's not a minute winner on the feet. So he's gonna have to win minutes on the ground. And look, I mean, he's been great at it. 50.57% control time for, 13.75% control time against. So he's gotten 12 takedowns. His opponents have gotten 4. He's out-controlling his opponents at a better than 3-to-1 ratio, so the efficiency is there. Almost 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's attempting submissions once it gets there. Clay Guida has 201 takedown attempts in the UFC in 32 fights. So that is over 6 takedown attempts per fight for Clay Guida. He's gotten 72 of them. He's getting them at almost a 36% clip. Gets just as many takedowns for 15 minutes as Puelles does, and he's out controlling his opponents at a really nice ratio here of over 4-1, 39.12% control time for, 8.95% control time against. So Clay, with his wrestling background, I feel like is going to be able to dictate where this fight takes place. The guys that Puelles is taking down, Gritzenmacher, Marcus Mariano, Felipe Silva, these are not the kind of guys, they don't have a wrestling pedigree like Clay Guida does. So, I'm thinking that Clay Guida is going to win this fight for a couple of different reasons. One, if it goes to the ground, Puelles is going to be very live, and he goes for knee bars. So he's the kind of submission grappler who can kind of he doesn't have to just be on top in order to be successful. He can be on the bottom and use those leg locks to either sweep or just threaten with submissions. He'll throw up triangles and arm bars as well. He's long, he's lean, and he's got a pretty good gas tank in order to chase wrestling attacks and then go for submissions on the ground once he's successful with those wrestling attacks. But Clay has been a pretty good, over a huge sample size here, he's only allowing 9% control time, so that means over a 900-second fight, that would be about 81 seconds of control time that he's allowing on the aggregate. That's not enough time to lock up a submission against a guy like Clay Guida. So I think this, on the feet, it'll be close, but Clay will be dictating kind of how the striking exchanges take place. He'll be bounding in and out. He'll be very hard to find. And he lands some big shots every once in a while. And I think if the rounds are close, we're going to see Guida stopping takedown attempts. And I think that where you can even see Clay get takedowns in the last minute of each of the 3 rounds in order to try to bank those rounds and win them on the judges' scorecards here. So the reason I'm picking Guida in this fight is I think that he has the wrestling advantage. I don't think he's the better submission grappler, but I think he's going to be the one that dictates whether this fight stays standing or whether it goes to the ground. I think he's going to use that veteran savvy. He's going to use that wrestling background in order to put together a game plan that allows him to win this fight. And in order for him to do that, I think he needs to keep it striking, move, be hard to find, and then find those takedown attempts when they present themselves towards the end of rounds and stop the grappling entries from Claudio Puelles. I think if he does all those things, he's going to come out victorious. And I mean, the strength of schedule, you guys, obviously it's going to be Clay Guida. This guy's fought everybody. His ratio is 1.42 compared to 0.75 for Puelles. And while the ratio is the same in their wins, it's Clay Guida who's beating experienced competition and Puelles who's beating very inexperienced competition, guys that really aren't UFC level or are low UFC level. It doesn't get any lower level than Marcos Mariano. Felipe Silva wasn't even with the promotion for long, and he almost lost that fight. So, yeah, you guys, the pick is going to be Clay Guida here by decision. Next fight, Chase Sherman stepping in on short notice against Alexandr Romanov. So I don't have any lines yet here. Let me just refresh and see if we've gotten any lines opening here on this fight. I've got Romanov Bozer still is the only Romanov line that is available. So it looks like we don't have a line on this fight yet. And we could talk about the stats, but I really don't think it's important, you guys. Chase Sherman, in his last fight, got taken down by Fat Collier and then submitted by Fat Collier, you guys. Fat Collier, a guy who hadn't had a takedown since my man Brady was in high school, okay? Fat Collier took down Chase Sherman and then submitted him in the very first round. Fat Collier, not a wrestler. Fat Collier, not known for his ground game. Alexandr Romanov is a wrestler. Alexandr Romanov is known for his ground game. And they gave Chase Sherman a 4-fight contract for having the balls to accept this fight, because you would have to have a fucking screw loose in order to take a fight against Alexandr Romanov on short notice, unless somebody was really coming to the table with something juicy for you. Now, I think we all win here, you guys. This is a win for all of us, right? We're going to get to see Chase Sherman 4 more times in the UFC. This is great. This could be potential unintentional comedy here. This could be really fun fights. I mean, Chase Sherman's fun to bet against. And one of the last ass shavings of the week that I got wrong was Chase Sherman. I picked Chase Sherman to shave ass over Fat Collier and was made to look like a complete prick. And I even said that, you know, before that fight, that like Chase Sherman's going to be better on the feet here. He's the natural heavyweight. He's longer, he's bigger, he's stronger, and he's got a lot of power. So I kind of figured that this fight would stay standing. I mean, Collier took him down at will. It made it look easy. Look, Alexandr Romanov is a much better wrestler than Fat Collier is. So, I mean, this is easy. Alexandr Romanov is going to go in here. He's going to take this guy down. He's probably going to forearm choke him, and it's probably going to be in the very first round. This probably opens up around minus 600 and then goes to maybe minus 1,500. If you're betting, if you've got a bet in right now on Dean Barry at minus 1,500, just get it out of there and then just put Alexandr Romanov as soon as it opens in there. So this is going to be an ass shaving. This is not even going to be close. This is more of an ass waxing. I mean, Alexandr Romanov, 69% control time for, you know, he's spending all of his time in wrestling positions. You know, only 25% of his fights take place at striking range. Chase Sherman had pretty good takedown defense before Fat Collier took him down. He was 3 of 17. You know, had stopped 14 of 17 takedown attempts against him. He was over 80%. But, you know, after seeing Fat Collier do that to him, I mean, we know what Romanov's going to do. So, yeah, Romanov, ass shaving, first round forearm choke on the ground. Let's move on to the main event. We've got Amanda Lemos coming in against Jessica Andrade here. 52 of you guys are hanging out on a late Tuesday night, breaking down these fights with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out here. Smash that like button if you haven't done it already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it already. And hit the subscribe button on the MMA Engine YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. On Thursday, I will be going live with Brady, I believe 7 o'clock Central Time, for Propability, where we will be showing you this absolutely beautiful prop template here and giving you data-driven lines here and ways to beat these guys in terms of fight goes and fight doesn't go to decision lines. You see, we have the divisional finish rates here for every division from 2013 all the way to 22, the aggregates, the amount of fights that have finished inside the distance, the amount of fights that have went to decision, the amount of fights that have went under 2.5, the amount of fights that have went under 1.5, the betting lines, those betting lines converted into implied probabilities, and then we compare the divisional finish rate and the implied probability of the lines against the statistics of both fighters to see if we can find some value in these lines. So check out Propability on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe to that channel as well. The MMA Engine website will be going live at some point in May, and we can't wait to share the analytics and stuff that we've got ready for you guys on this website. So thank you for listening to that, but let's get right back here to the main event, which is going to be Lemos versus Andrade. So Jessica Andrade is actually going to be the younger fighter here. We have to keep in mind that Amanda Lemos is 34 years old, you guys. A 34-year-old strawweight. She needs to go now. It's now or never for Amanda Lemos. If she wants gold around her waist, she needs a win on Saturday, and she needs to do it emphatically. So Amanda is going to be taller and have the reach advantage here, and she's a southpaw, so that's going to be difficult for Jessica to deal with. But it's Jessica who's younger and a lot more experienced here, you guys. 18 more professional fights for Jessica Andrade. Over 200 more minutes in the professional cage for Jessica. 3 more years as a pro. 14 more UFC level fights. 150 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these ladies are finishers. 73% finish rate for Andrade, and she's fought 20 fights out of her 31 at the UFC level. So she's even finishing over 50% of her UFC wins inside the distance. And Lemos has an 82% finish rate in her 11 wins, and she's finished 3 of her 5 UFC wins inside the distance. Andrade finished in 6 of 9 losses, and Lemos finished in 1 of 1 losses. So 7 of these ladies' 10 losses have been inside the distance. If we look at the striking numbers, it's Lemos who's landing 5.35 and absorbing 4.67. She throws a little more volume than her opponents. She's landing at almost a 60% accuracy, and she's landing a knockdown on over 2% of the significant strikes that she's landing here, you guys. So very powerful, active, not great defensively at 48%, but she's never been knocked down. And she's got a ton of power. And despite the fact that she's got a ton of power, a lot of times what you see when somebody's got a lot of power, like for instance, like a Manel Kape, they trust their power so much that they don't care if they're getting outlanded by their opponent. They're waiting for the one big shot that changes the trajectory of the fight. Lemos, despite the fact that she has that crazy power, she's still throwing a little more volume than her opponents, and she's landing more than her opponents are. So the striking metrics for Lemos are next level, you guys. They're fantastic. Now, Andrade, we would expect the same thing. Lands 6.24, absorbs only 5.21. 50% accurate. 3 knockdowns in 20 fights. She's been knocked down 3 times in 20 fights. So she's, 2.23 knockdowns for 15 minutes and 0.23 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. She throws about 1.3 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents do. So that is something to note there, that Andrade does throw a ton of volume. And then when we look at the grappling numbers, Amanda has been okay. I mean, she's gotten 4 takedowns in 6 fights. So she's getting her takedowns at over a 50% rate. She's got 19% control time on those 4 takedowns, but she's also been controlled 28% of her UFC cage time. And that's only on 1 takedown. So Amanda Lemos lost a ton of minutes up against the cage in the Mizuki Inoue fight. So that's where we see a lot of that control time taking place here. Andrade has done a great job of using the grappling exchanges to win minutes in the UFC. She's out-controlling her opponents at almost a 3-to-1 ratio here, you guys. She out-controls her opponents 28.4% to 10.5%. She has 38 takedowns and is only allowed 17. And she's getting her takedowns at over a 55% clip and averaging just under 3 takedowns per 15 minutes and only allowing 1.3 takedowns per 15 minutes. So with Andrade, we've had somebody that's fought, beaten, and lost to champions here. She's fought the much better brand of competition on the regional scene and in the UFC. We see the ratio 1.55 for Andrade, 1.06 for Lemos. We got 10.45 total fights for Andrade, 5.5 for Lemos. So the average Lemos opponent has a record of 2.83 wins and 2.67 losses, while for Andrade, it's 6.35 wins, 4.1 losses. And Lemos's wins are against that same quality of opponent, 2.8 wins, 2.6 losses, while for Andrade, 6 wins, 4 losses. Much better ratio. She's lost to the better competition as well. The names on the resume: Zhang Wei Li, Rose Namajunas, Katlyn Chikagian, Shevchenko, Calvillo. And then with Lemos, you see an impressive split decision win against Angela Hill. But, Montserrat Ruiz, Lavinia Sosa, Mizuki Inoue, Miranda Granger, Leslie Smith. Not the same level of opponent that Andrade has faced. And when we look at Andrade in greater detail here, we're going to take a look at the type of ladies that are beating Jessica Andrade. And we're going to find that they all have one thing in common, you guys. Let's see. That's Clay Guida there. Here we got Romanov, Bozer. So here's Andrade, right? She lost to Valentina Shevchenko, Rose Namajunas, Zhang Wei Li, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and then at 135 pounds, she's lost to Raquel Pennington, Marion Renault, and Liz Carmouche. So the 135-pound losses happened about 7 years ago. So we'll just throw those out. And we know that was back when in the UFC there was only a 135-pound women's weight class. So Jessica had no choice but to fight at 135. Once they created the strawweight class, she moved down and then saw a lot more success. So after 135 here, we can see 1, 2, 3, 7, 9 wins and 4 losses, or 3 losses. So no, 4, 9 and 4 in her last 13 fights after moving down from 135. And the losses to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, champion, Zhang Wei Li, champion, Rose Namajunas, current champion, and Valentina Shevchenko, current champion. So at 125 pounds and 115 pounds, you have to have had gold around your waist in order to beat Jessica Andrade. And then you look at the wins: Chikagian, Calvillo, Rose Namajunas, Kovalkiewicz, Torres, and Gedalia. So really impressive stuff here in terms of the wins for Jessica Andrade. And we see a lot of spots here: 435 seconds of control time against Torres, 515 seconds of control time against Gedalia. These are ladies who have won fights with control time, but she also is knocking people out in the fights that she's not getting control time in. So a lot more ways to win fights. Jessica can win it with her grappling and her wrestling and her control time, or she can win it with her power by folding your body earlier in a fight. Now, Lemos, she does carry her power a little bit later in fights than most people give her credit for. Even in the third round, she was throwing bombs against Angela Hill. In the third round, she was throwing bombs against Mizuki Inoue. It's just that I think that, the pressure of Andrade is going to make a difference here. I think she's really going to need to stay in her face, because if you just stand in front of Amanda Lemos and allow her to move her feet and throw those hands down the middle, it's going to be a very rough night for you. And she has absolutely destroyed some of her opponents that have chosen to do that, like Lavinia Sosa. So very, very interesting stylistic matchup here. But do I think that a 34-year-old Amanda Lemos has it in her to beat Jessica Andrade? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Jessica Andrade gets this one done inside the distance, round 2, round 3, and I think she might do it with her top control and her wrestling. But I think that the fight doesn't go to decision is probably the best bet for this fight. We've only seen Jessica Andrade go 5 rounds once, and that was against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and Joanna not much of a finisher. So, I think with Lemos being such a savage finisher and Andrade being the same in her own right, that this fight does finish inside the distance, that this just becomes another fight that doesn't go 5 rounds for either of these two ladies. So I'm going to pick Jessica Andrade. I'll say 3rd round knockout, you guys. And I think that the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 180 is a pretty good look here, you guys, to bet. We got my guy PayPal saying, Lemos losing would make me sad, and I deserve happiness after Jan and Luque lost in less than a month. I'm due. Yeah, I was on Jan. That one hurt, dude, because Sal D'Amato got that one wrong. And and then Luque, I was on the Muhammad side there, cashed a ticket there, which was nice. But Vicente Luque is one of those awesome fighters that you don't like rooting against, because he's such a credit to the sport, and he fights in a way that's so fan friendly. But either way, we got to cash these tickets, and that's always the goal at the end of the day. So I'm telling you, fight doesn't go to decision, and I'm leaning on Andrade for this one, but I think Lemos is extremely live. But you guys, that leaves us with one order of business left. And I think you know what it is. No, actually, you know what? Today we've got 2 orders of business left. The first one is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Like we always do about this time, you guys. It's time to figure out which one of these guys is going to win in a violent fashion. Which one of these guys is going to violently take money from the bookies on your behalf this week. And we've got some really great choices here. Some really wide lines. Guys like Dean Barry sitting at minus 1,500. You know, guys like, Archie Lang sitting at minus 225. Tyson Pedro at minus 600, you guys. We got Marc-Andre Barriault could get a first-round ass-shaving win here against Jourdain Wright. Kape Mudaerji, somebody could get their ass shaved. Vannata Jourdain is going to be a great fan-friendly fight, but it's minus 110 apiece. Guida Puelles minus 110 apiece. I mean, Romanov, yeah, maybe Andrade, you guys, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm giving you one that I think has got a great chance, not just to win, but win inside the distance. It's not one of the crazy wide lines like you might expect me to take here. A couple weeks ago, I gave you a plus money ass shaving in Alexei Oleinik that came through in style. And last week, Martin Buday, I thought he finished that fight. I thought that elbow was legal, but it was very close. And I'm glad that he got the technical decision and he wound up winning. But this week, you guys, there's somebody that I like, and plus money is going to be inside the distance for this particular fighter is going to be plus money. And this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, you guys, is going to be, we see that, I'm going to put up just to drag out the suspense a little bit longer. You see Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week up there, you guys. It is going to be my guy, Archie Lang, to shave the ass of Cameron Else via second round KO. A guy with one round of gas. Archie Lang, the Mongolian murderer, is going to murder your bookie, and I will be putting in a big bet, at least a 2-unit bet on Archie Lang inside the distance, because Cameron Else brings one round of cardio. I think he hits hard, but I don't think he hits hard enough for Archie Lang. This guy can walk through just about anything. He's moving up to 135 pounds, which means his chin will be even better here. I like Archie Lang's wrestling. I like his power. I like his durability. And I think the combination of those three things is going to be way too much for Cameron Else here. He's not a UFC level fighter, in my opinion. He's a great killer be killed regional scene fighter, but he's got 5 losses on his record. Saturday is going to be number 6. It's going to be Archie Lang by second round knockout. But you guys, we've actually got one more order of business to take care of here. We've already got Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. But what is going to be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the year? The ass shaving of the year, without question, you guys. Come on. Chase Sherman taking this fight on less than a week's notice against Alexandr King Kong Romanov. It's not just worthy of an ass shaving of the week. It's not just worthy of an ass shaving of the month. 2022 is probably not going to see an ass shaving of the magnitude of what Alexandr King Kong Romanov is going to do to the guy that got taken down and submitted by Fat Collier. You guys, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the year, the most dominant performance of the year, is going to be Alexandr Romanov killing Chase Sherman. But then we're going to get 3 more opportunities to bet against Chase Sherman, because Dana White had to give him a 4-fight contract after going 4-8 in the UFC to get to come back and take this Romanov fight on less than 1 week's notice. So it's going to be an ass shaving of the year, you guys. Thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out on a Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy, doing just the tip. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. God bless each and every one of you guys. And I hope to see you guys back here tomorrow night for a Balls Deep breakdown or an episode of Ask Weezy. I will be on Pub Sports Radio tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central Time, for the DFS show that I do with DFS by the Numbers, Monk Maddox, and my guy Luke from Sparring with Reality Betting. And I will be on the MMA Engine YouTube channel on Thursday for the brand new show Probability, the way that you're going to be getting analytics for free from the MMA Engine crew so that we can shave the asses of these bookies good style on Saturday. Thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out. I will be back tomorrow, and let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 52. Good night, guys.